Welcome to the McGill Minute. My name is Mary Frances Kiffmeyer, and I serve as the marketing manager at McGill. We're celebrating STEM Day today, which is a day dedicated to encouraging kids to get curious about math and science activities. And it's an effort to raise funds to help science teachers buy supplies. Today, I'll be talking with Ian Riddell. Ian is the STEM facilitator for grades pre-K through 8 at Carolina Day School in Asheville. As the STEM facilitator, he is committed to enhancing the student experience by providing opportunities for students to think critically about science and mathematics through hands-on experiences in their school day. He's helped the school shift to the next generation science standards and provide support to students and teachers alike as science instruction evolves. Welcome, Ian. Thanks so much for joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
We are so excited to learn more about what you do and what you have to say. So let's just get started with what is STEM education and why is it important?
When it comes to STEM education and setting up the programming here at the school, I'm usually focused on the T and the E, the technology and the engineering, since science and math are happening already in our classrooms. And so I'm thinking about ways to use the technology and the engineering aspects of it to enhance the science and the math and make them practical. So technology, when I think about the T and the technology, that to me speaks to the importance of exposing kids to some of the most powerful applications of technology early on. And one example I would give would be spreadsheets, which I think are a great and powerful, very universally applicable tool. And once they have had a chance to try and work with them in the context of a science and a mathematics class, I think it's very easy for students to then envision more applications for something like a spreadsheet. It is a very useful tool for solving particular types of problems, but exposing them to that early so that they see it as something that they are capable of working with and they can imagine the solutions that it could be applied to. The engineering part of STEM to me, means being resourceful. It means solving problems. It also speaks to some of the softer skills like leadership skills and communication skills, which are some of the things I try to bring into our engineering work to make engineering a team process, which I think it almost always is.
That's really interesting. Spreadsheet. I did not think about that as being a part of STEM education, but it's a part of my life now.
Yeah, once you get to using them, you kind of can't imagine life without them, right?
Yeah. So tell us about your teaching space and what it looks like and what tools you find necessary.
My classroom kind of exists in two realms. There's the digital realm where the tools that we're using in here are all things that have been invented and developed over the last 10 to 20 years. But there's also the hand tool side of it. And this is where the technology can date back hundreds or thousands of years. We have saws and hand drills and pliers and screwdrivers in here, along with Lego robots, Raspberry Pis, Makey-Makeys, and laptops. I don't have desks in my class. I have workbenches. I don't have chairs in my classroom because when you walk in, the story that I want my classroom to tell is we are here to make stuff and do stuff. We're not here to sit. We're not here to write. We're not here to plan endlessly. We're here to make stuff and do stuff.
What are the most important STEM skills you hope students gain from your classes?
Honestly, the most important thing, you might not consider it a skill, but I think the most important thing I want students to carry out of these classes is confidence, which to me means that you self-identify as being capable of doing something. I recognize that many students who pass through this classroom and I'm asking them to pick up a saw and cut some wood, they may never cut wood again. This may not be the thing for them. But what's important for me is that every student that passes through here has had that experience, has picked up a saw, has learned how to use it safely, and has cut some wood. Because what that means is later in your life, if somebody asks you to use a saw again, you won't say to yourself, that's not something I can do. Right? I don't identify as somebody who can use a saw. But instead, you have an experience somewhere in your past that says, no, this is something that I can do. I have done it before. I'm certainly capable of doing it. Maybe I'm out of practice. Maybe I'm not very good at it, but I at least know that I'm capable of doing it. And I think that's more important than any specific skill we could identify. I think it's a mindset.
That's so important. So what is the difference between STEM and STEAM?
I think that STEAM is a useful term when we're trying to get people at the table to discuss technology. And it's giving people whose backgrounds are in the arts a seat at the table when we talk about issues of technology. There is no part of our current American society that is not affected by the latest technology, thinking about computers, laptops, and the internet. There just is no realm that is not impacted by that. And the arts are an important one. I do think it's important, though, that we also keep our focus on the original purpose behind the STEM acronym, which was that we were identifying a need in our country to be educating the next generation of scientists and mathematicians to be able to take over some of these impactful and high-paying jobs in these growing fields. And so I think it's important for us to remember the original purpose of it and to keep our eye on the ball of bolstering and enforcing and properly funding our science and mathematics classrooms and getting them to work on the technology and the engineering aspects of it.
So how do you stay up to date in this constantly evolving field?
As technology is coming out, if it doesn't have an intrinsic value to what our core educational goals are, then it's not going to last at our school. Our school in the lower school and in the middle school still does not have a 3D printer. And although we've talked about it a great deal, we don't have yet a killer application for the 3D printer in our lower school education. And educators of all stripes are familiar with the shiny new object or the shiny new idea that comes through in education, but doesn't last. And I think that it's important with technology that we're able to discern between the technology that's really going to impact our science, math, language, and social studies curriculums, and the technology which is cool for the sake of its own technology. Because if it's cool for its own sake and it doesn't impact those core academics, it's not going to last. We've got to educate all of our teachers about how to use these things so that they can live in the classroom and work year after year after year. So there are tools that I use. For example, Scratch, which is a website run by MIT, has been around for over a decade. I'm going to say 2 decades, but it still remains to me the best way that I know of to introduce anyone to coding. It's packaged that simply. It's that easy to get into. There isn't any need to reinvent that. It's done and it's great. And I've been using it for years. And I can't imagine that I'll stop anytime soon. So it's important to sort of see the difference between the things that are going to impact, the things that are designed to be friendly to kids, and the things that are really nifty and cool, but don't have the impact.
Okay, so what difference, if any, do you see in how best to teach STEM to girls versus boys, or differences in how you encourage STEM through the grades of pre-K through 8th grade?
I strive to be gender blind as much as possible in the way that I'm programming, while still honoring those differences that exist between the boys and the girls. I think that education has made a lot of really profound strides in bringing our boys and girls on par with one another and recognizing some of the sins of the past in education as far as not properly honoring the capabilities of girls in the math classrooms and the science classrooms. For me, instead of thinking about boy and girl differences, I put it into terms of form and function. And I try to honor both form and function when I'm designing and programming for our classrooms. And I'll break that down just a little bit. The form aspect is what I also call the adorning aspect, which is this idea of beautifying things, simplifying things, bringing color into projects. And then the other side of it is the function side. There are kids that simply want to focus on the functionality of a project and making it work, sometimes at the expense of the aesthetics of the project. The best engineering projects are going to have both, are going to be excellent at both the form and the function. This is sort of the genius of Steve Jobs in the way that he propelled Apple forward, was he made the products beautiful and easy to use and intuitive. And I try to make sure that each group, if we split our classroom into those that are our form, our adorning kids, and those that are our function kids, I want each group to recognize the importance of the other groups. So if I'm doing a project which is very function-based, like I might have the students design a waterproof structure, and we'll test it at the end to see whose project is the most waterproof. That's a very function-heavy project for them to work on. So I'll bring in some form to it too. And I'll say that at the end, we're going to honor the most waterproofed structure, but we're also going to have an honor for the person who made the best looking project. And trying to acknowledge the importance of both of those when it comes to engineering and design.
Okay, so what do you find the most rewarding in your profession?
When I can catch up with a parent or a student years down the road and hear from them in hindsight about the importance of some work that we did in the classroom, some importance of maybe a particular project or maybe a team that I coached with the students, that's definitely the most rewarding, because when you can feel the lasting impact that you have as an educator, that it's not just what happens in the classroom, but like I was saying earlier, if we're developing confidence in students, and I can hear later that a student has gone into a technological field and hear from them that I was there at the beginning of that process and helping to steer that ship towards that, that is hands down the most rewarding aspect of the job.
What can engineers or professionals in the STEM field do to give back to students in elementary and middle school age groups?
I think if you have kids looking for an opportunity to be a STEM coach in one way or another is a really profound way to give back. There are science competitions like the Science Olympiad, like the first Lego League, Odyssey of the Mind. And these are volunteer-driven endeavors. They are reaching out and impacting kids at all age levels, and they need help. And the students need parent and educator figures to step in, to volunteer to be coaches, to get these programs started at schools where they are not started currently. So if you are a parent and your kid is going to a school that doesn't have a Science Olympiad team, looking for the ability to create that team and be a coach for that team is one of the most profound ways to have an impact. I think also it's important to think about some of the soft skills that go along with STEM, thinking about science fiction, thinking about role-playing games, thinking about chess, and fostering clubs around these passions are providing connection points for young people who are prone to go into a STEM field. So thinking about some of those soft skills too, or those things that are often associated with the STEM field, but aren't necessarily directly related to science and math education. For people who don't have kids, again, going back to those competitions like Odyssey of the Mind and Science Olympiad, they need judges. And so a lot of times you can reach out to those programs and volunteer to be a judge at a tournament. Maker spaces are a great place. If there isn't one, starting one. If there is one, volunteering to help with the administration of one, volunteering to spend time at one. Also, communities very often have tool libraries. And those are a profound resource in communities, especially underserved communities, offering some of the tools that you have at your disposal to a tool library or offering administrative support to a tool library in your area is a great way to get involved.
So before we end, Ian, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I'd just like to say that I think that this is a really exciting time for young people with science and technology and mathematics, with the internet, the resources to learn any skill are at your disposal. And I think the most important thing for grown-ups to keep in mind is that curiosity and confidence and drive are the most important things to be fostering in young people. They can find their own path and they can educate themselves if they have that confidence and they have that curiosity. There are abundant opportunities to bring young people into the actual workspaces where the science and the mathematics and the engineering are happening. So looking for those opportunities to make science, math, and engineering real, and to make the people who are doing it real to young people so that they can envision themselves in those roles in the future.
Those are all great ideas. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your time today, Ian. This has been really fun and enlightening. You've shared a lot of great information.
Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed it. Thanks for listening, and be sure to visit our website at mcgillassociates.com to learn more about what we do, or email us at info@mcgillassociates.com. We appreciate you listening today and look forward to bringing you additional topics in the near future.